Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today I want to talk about something that is honestly pretty scummy and pretty disgusting, and I feel like this isn't an isolated case. That's really why I want to talk about this, especially because this more or less to me highlights especially one of the big issues that I've had with MCNs or multi-channel networks for a long time now, and this isn't the first time that one of these MCNs have been exposed by creators for doing pretty insanely scummy shit, right? Just things that you would think not only are illegal, but just morally wrong too. And we're gonna get into this entire situation and talk about the legal ramifications and what exactly is going on here. But this is all basically coming from a creator by the name of Ethan Klein, also known as H3H3 Productions. You may know him as the host of the H3 podcast. Essentially, over the last couple days, he has been exposing his MCN on Twitter for allegedly stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of their membership revenue through their platforms on YouTube and refusing to give it back, which Ethan claims is in direct violation of the contract that they signed with the MCN. And apparently it could be even further reaching than just the H3 crew here. Apparently there are other YouTube creators now who are claiming they basically have the same contract with the same group, and it's possible that their money is being taken and basically held hostage from them as well. So to give you guys a little bit of a backstory on an MCN, because that's going to be a term I'm using a lot here today, and I know a lot of YouTube viewers especially may not be very familiar with what that means. An MCN is what a multi-channel network is, and basically what these companies do is they sign YouTube creators, influencers, content creators in general to contracts through their platform, where basically this company provides a bunch of creator and business related services for you, and they take a slice of your revenue basically, right? So say some company comes up and they say, hey, we'll take 30% of your YouTube earnings, but we'll take care of any copyright issue that you potentially have. We'll streamline the monetization process for you. Some of them claim they can get you better ads and better CPMs to make you more money. Things like that, right? Now, back in the day on YouTube, these were actually pretty necessary companies, especially when monetization was first coming around, because only specific types of creators were getting monetized, right? And it wasn't as streamlined and just out as front as it is now, right? Now they have the requirements you have to hit, and once you do that, you pretty much can get monetized regardless, as long as you're compliant with the policies of the platform, right? So as YouTube has added more of these features to make monetization easier for more creators on the platform, MCN's major draw has kind of fell apart, right? Because, well, most people don't really need an MCN because there's copyright tools directly in YouTube Studio, and you can have a monetization tab right in YouTube Studio, and most of the things that these companies basically did, it's now just not really as worth it. But for big creators, it can still be worth it. It just really depends. But for most people, it's just not the answer anymore. But Ethan Klein and a bunch of other creators are signed to an MCN called BBTV, right? Now, this is a pretty decently sized company, right? They have tens of thousands of followers on Twitter. It's a very publicly known company in this industry. It's not like these are some small-time guys, right? This Broadband TV company, I think that's the full name of the company, is being accused of some pretty nefarious shit. I mean, this is very serious allegations here. It's not some hey, they didn't give us our last month of YouTube earnings on time or anything like that. This is basically alleging fraud and theft. Basically alluding that this company is refusing to pay them the money that they rightfully own through the contract for whatever reason it may be, and whatever reason that is, we'll get into a little bit later in the video. But this all started when H3H3 came out on Twitter just a few days ago to explain that memberships on their channel on YouTube had been paused. Now, here on their H3 podcast channel, they have memberships where people can, pay a monthly fee basically to support their content. A lot of YouTube creators have this. I also have it. It's just a way to support them directly, right? It's money that's supposed to be going to the creator, right? Now, of course, YouTube, they take a little cut of it because they run the platform and whatnot, so they take a pretty, I would say, significant chunk, but you still get a pretty decent amount of money from it, right? Well, unfortunately, in this situation, it appears that that money might have been cut up even more and now has basically been stolen, a part of it at least, from Ethan Klein and the H3 team. Hey guys, we're aware that memberships were just paused. We were forced to make some last-minute channel changes because we discovered our MCM, which is the Broadband TV Corp, and the CEO, that's the CEO of the company, took $620,000 from our membership revenue and is refusing to return it. More on Monday. So Ethan also uploaded a video on the 8th of April called BBTV stole $600,000 or $620,000 from me, in my opinion, right? And it's a 20-minute video where he goes through and details pretty much everything that's happened, right? That really kind of breaks down more or less what exactly is going on here. I'm going to show a couple clips from the video, but if you want to watch the video in its entirety, I absolutely recommend you do. I'll leave a link to that down below. It's literally just the full context of the situation from his perspective.
Let's see, I joined them in 2017, and the deal we had with them is we would get 100% of everything. Basically, if they brought us like a sponsorship, like let's say Nike was like, hey, I want to put an ad, I want Ethan to read an ad in his video. So if they brought us that, then they would get a cut of that. But everything we made through YouTube, 100% of YouTube revenue came to us.
So this part right here is really important. Here, basically, Ethan is saying 100% of the money they make through YouTube is supposed to go to them. The MCN doesn't take a cut of that. You know, if the MCN's not the one providing them with like a brand deal or something, that money is supposed to go to the H3 team, right? Because, well, if you know anything about like the memberships, that's through YouTube. That's not like a feature added by an MCN or anything like that. That's just a direct platform thing through YouTube. So when people were buying memberships, that technically counts as YouTube revenue because they're buying these memberships through their YouTube channel and getting the benefits on YouTube. This is not anything that the MCN provided for them. So for them to feel like they're entitled to really any money from this when contractually it's stated that the money is supposed to go 100% to H3 in them, like, I don't even understand what they think they're going to get away with there, right? Like, if that's really how the contract is worded and that's pretty cut and dry YouTube revenue, right? Like, anyone I feel like would be able to be like, yeah, that's rightfully Ethan Klein and them's money. Because, I mean, let's be real, like, when someone's buying a membership to a YouTube channel, they're never buying it with the like in mind being like, oh, I want to give a cut of this to their MCN. That money is being given to these creators by their supporters so that they can continue to create content and do exclusive things and be rewarded for their participation on that level of being in the audience, right? So it just is insane for them to just want to come along and take that money. Now, there's still more to it, so I'm going to play a couple more little pieces of this, but I just wanted to point that out. It's not like this is in any way rightfully BBTV's money.
Part of what happened was we had our old accountant lady who was with us for a few years. Before she started, I used to every month go over the receipt, check it against YouTube, and make sure it was 100% correct. Now, it had never been wrong in all my years of being on YouTube. And when she started, I outsourced it to her because it was tedious. It was taking a lot of my time. I mean, this is part of what growing a business is outsourcing this kind of tedious tasks like that.
So it's being chalked up to an employee in the past, at least, not really doing their job right, not actually checking the receipts. Now, as a creator myself, I understand 100% where Ethan's coming from here, because at a certain point as a creator, you know, when you're working on a project like this and you're creating content for the internet, you know, you don't want to sit there and have to dig through all the financial receipts. That's not where your focus is, right? So understandably, he outsourced it to an employee, someone who I guess is at least qualified, I would think, to do finances. They weren't doing it right or paying attention enough, and well, this just got kind of snuck under the rug a little bit. Now, these types of things happen, and the new employee who came along seems to not be in the same boat, right? Seems to be at least a little more competent at their job. So what's really the shittiest part about this is, as a creator, like, this isn't even something you should have to worry about, right? Like, when you sign a contract with an MCN, which Ethan goes into detail about why that was more or less necessary for them, and long story short, you know, they used to live in Israel, they moved to the United States, they couldn't get their AdSense account or whatever transferred, so they had to go through an MCN to get paid while they lived in the US. So, like I said, you'll see that there's a utility for some people, right? These were way more useful on a widespread basis back in the day, but, you know, situations like this, I feel like, are really more or less one of the catalysts for why MCNs have been dying off in the last, like, half decade. We're at a point in time on YouTube and in content creation online in general, right, where there's so many different ways to get paid, right? Like, there's so many avenues for revenue, if that makes any sense. And memberships on YouTube is a great example. Like, that was a great feature that YouTube added so people could directly support creators. In no way, shape, or form should that ever be money that an MCN should be entitled to. Like, no creator should ever sign a contract where an MCN can get their hands on that money. And in this situation, that doesn't even apply because, as Ethan has been claiming, you know, in their contract, they were owed that money. That was rightfully their money. So
they go, okay, well, they says there's a clause if you go to other payments. Now, these guys had the fucking audacity to come to me and say, well, if you look at this section, your revenue, and you look here, it says 70% of other net revenues. And they're like, well, memberships is other net revenue.
So this is a part of the contract that Broadband TV has been repeatedly trying to reference to Ethan Klein when he's brought up, you know, hey, you guys took fucking $630,000, whatever, out of my membership money when you owed me 100% of my Google net revenue, my YouTube revenue, right? Well, they tried to pull up these two clauses that basically they seem to suggest says like they can basically take 70% of quote unquote other revenue. But then in the clauses, it's very clearly defined that what they took, these membership money, falls under a Google membership, which is exactly what they defined in these clauses. So in their own contract, they tried to write where they could like silently take, you know, 30% of your money or whatever, right? Like, and give you 70%. But at the same time, they also wrote it, at least to this point, where they covered over what they were trying to steal from here from Ethan, right? Like, they covered memberships to a pretty clear extent. That definition is pretty much literally what YouTube memberships are. Like, there's no way around it. You literally use like a Google checkout damn near when you buy a membership on YouTube. Now, to clarify basically what this has led to, Ethan Klein had a phone call with the people at Broadband TV where they essentially tried to justify the entire thing, saying that it fell under that other revenue shit that they tried to pull, which is funny because that's not very clearly defined, but then in the clear definitions of the clauses, they're just wrong. And now this is leading obviously to a lawsuit. I mean, the Kleins are going to sue for their money, and unfortunately, from what Ethan said in his video as well, they have had no monetization now, and they will have no monetization for probably about a period of at least 2 weeks, as they're going to have to transfer that AdSense account or like cancel it and basically get a new one here in the United States. So they won't be making any money for a period of a couple weeks at least, right, as they get that sorted out on pretty much any of their channels, all because this MCN is like so hell-bent on keeping money that anyone with a brain would like rightfully realize isn't their money. I mean, that's just fucking ridiculous. I mean, you can't just say, oh, we can take 30% of other revenue and then you don't specify what other revenue is. That's not really how that works, especially when the other clauses of your contract completely contradict what you're trying to use that for. I mean, this is what's scary about MCNs to me, and this is why, you know, obviously H3H3, they've been on YouTube longer than me. They've been doing YouTube professionally longer than I have, right? Because I was watching H3 back when I had like probably fucking 1,000 subscribers, right? So it's been more necessary for them, and, you know, they've had more experience, but in my time going into being professional here on YouTube, I have always completely dodged and avoided MCNs because you hear so many horror stories like this, right? Where, you know, they just do the most outrageous possible shit, and they take like this insane level of control over creators that they don't deserve. And then it turns out that according to Brody Fox, who makes like Yo Mama content, and then the YouTuber Kavos, they both are working with Broadband TV and are now having issues too. Brody Fox here saying, we have the same contract, 100% YouTube revenue with Broadband TV from 2017. They've been taking 70% of our memberships as well. Didn't notice till now, since it's a small amount, we don't actively push it on our viewers, but I'd imagine other creators have been affected as well. And then also, I have been with Broadband TV for 5 years, and then every month on the 15th of each month, I've been paid for 5 years. So get paid on the 15th, pretty simple, right? Right at the middle of the month. Today, everyone receives an email that basically says one day before payday that the payday has been moved to next month. Luckily, I can afford to take a hit like this, but basically now other creators are coming forward to like slam dunk on Broadband TV for their issues that they're having. You know, this Brody Fox guy has the same contract and is dealing with a very similar issue to what Ethan Klein is dealing with. So this apparently has been happening to at least one other person. I mean, let's be realistic here. If it's happening to 2 of their creators, right, it's probably happening to more. So anyone who has any affiliation with Broadband TV, my advice, and I'm assuming Ethan and everyone else's advice for you, would be to go back and start checking the payout records that you get against your YouTube dashboard earnings and see if they've been skimming your earnings too, because this has been happening to other people. Then in Cavos' situation, you know, he's talking about they're moving paydays forward and stuff like that. Like, I don't even understand how that's even logical. Like, how are you going to tell me you're not going to pay me my money you owe me that I made for another month because of your problem? Like, what the fuck kind of deal is that? Like, at that point, what service are you providing? At that point, you're a net detriment to your creators. Like, you literally aren't even doing your job at that point. That's what's wild about that, right? But obviously, these people don't give a shit about doing their job, right? They don't care about getting things down right. Now, Ethan Klein put out a tweet on the 8th that is a pretty big bombshell, let's be honest. So if you didn't know, actually, Broadband TV is a publicly traded company. Like, they are on the stock market. And, well, they haven't been doing hot. I believe the reason Broadband TV chose to not pay us back is simply because they don't have the money. They recently took a loan of $20 million to pay off debt, and their stock has plummeted 96%. I hope YouTube is aware of this potential calamity. So this is actually pretty insane to think about. I mean, this is a company that's lost damn near 96.5% of their value all time and have absolutely been shredded in the last 2 years financially, to the point where they're taking in tens of millions of dollars to pay off debt. That's not a good sign for a company that is essentially a payment processor for creators. It doesn't seem like it's a very stable business, not even just mentioning the fact that their cash flow doesn't appear very stable either. I mean, it would be a pretty good explanation as to why they're out here stealing creators' money, refusing to pay them back, and not paying their other contracted creators on the platform on time. It's a pretty scary thought though. So obviously this is going to turn into a pretty big legal situation. Ethan Klein even said in the video that the plan is to sue. Really can't blame him. I mean, I figure I would do the same thing in this situation. It's a pretty shitty situation because, you know, this happens to creators more often than you would think. And, you know, it's not even just like H3 in this situation, right? There's creators much smaller than Ethan that are affiliated with Broadband too. Like, they are one of the big players in the MCN, I guess, community. Anyway, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. Thank you to my Watch Optimus subscribers. Your support helps the channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, well, talking about the Ethan Klein Broadband TV controversy and signing out.